Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the last video of the Study Abroad series. I am back in Los Angeles. I am home. For my last video of the Study Abroad series, I want to do a little study abroad recap, answer all your questions, give kind of my honest review of study abroad, studying abroad in the Netherlands, all that kind of fun stuff. I got myself some Panera coffee this morning, so we're going to get through this and we're going to talk all things Amsterdam. I wrote down all your questions, everything I want to go over on my phone. I've been studying abroad in the Netherlands for the past 4 months. I went to VU, or the VU, which is a university in Amsterdam, not in the heart of Amsterdam, but in the Zuid area, if you know anything about Amsterdam. I would say that I loved my experience, looking back on it now, but there were definitely the ups and downs of studying abroad. It definitely was not all sunshine and rainbows. There were periods where I was really homesick. There were periods where I was really upset and sad and frustrated and just wanted to go home. So I'm going to kind of touch base on all of that today. The first question is, how did you choose where to go? To be entirely honest with you guys, I didn't do a lot of research. I had been to Italy and I had been to Spain and I wanted to cross something new off of a bucket list. Mind you, I could have just gone for a weekend and cross it off of a bucket list, but no. I decided to go for the whole thing. Everything is obviously not what you see on social media. I definitely think I was social media influenced a little bit. I was seeing a lot of stuff about Amsterdam on my Instagram, and it looked really, really fun. And mind you, it was fun, but I think if I had done a little more research, I would have ended up somewhere else. I think you should look into the weather of the place you're staying, the housing that you're going to be staying at. If you want a really walkable city, which is kind of what I wanted, that's all really important. Because Amsterdam itself, central, is very walkable. But where I was staying and where the school was, all of those things are very spread out. It took me about half an hour to get into central Amsterdam from where I was staying, and about a 15-minute bike ride, not a walk, but a bike ride to school. What I was kind of envisioning when I picked Amsterdam was that I would be in one of the cute old houses with the hooks on the top, and I would step out of my apartment and I'd be in Central with all the cafes and all of the people and everything like that. I don't really even know how to explain it, but I was in an area with a lot of office buildings and everything like that, so people worked there, but then they all cleared out by 4 p.m. The place that I was staying was not only for students, so there were people in their upper 20s, 30s. I don't know, it was just strange. I would have rather lived with students so I could have met people my age and it would have been a little more social. Next question was it easy to make friends abroad? I'd say, honest answer, no. I wouldn't say it was easy, especially where I was living and the kind of situation I was in. If you're in student accommodation, again, it would probably be a little bit easier because you'd be living with other students. But for me to meet other students, I had to go out of my way to make friends. I had to talk to people in line, talk to people in classes. In fact, I joined a buddy program when I first got there, which was supposed to be a way to meet people. And it just wasn't my thing. I didn't really enjoy any of the events. So I ended up making 3 really, really good friends, Fran, Shreya, and Langley. Langley was living in the same building as me, so that helped. Fran, I met in line for my student ID card at the school. And then Shreya, I met because I got invited to this random, pre-game for a club one night. And we were all, splitting Ubers and figuring out how to get to Melkweg. And Shreya just ended up in the same Uber as me and Fran. I'd say, honestly, if you're going to be doing the exact same program that I did, which I go to the University of Denver, and if you're going to the VU from Denver, know someone before you go. Know at least one person so that first week or two before you make any real friendships, you have someone to hang out with and do things with. Because my first week or two was kind of really lonely. I did meet some people, but it was all very surface level friendships, which makes sense because it was only the first week or two there. But it was just kind of really lonely, and especially since I was living in my own room with my own bathroom, I didn't really ever see people unless I made the effort to go see people. I would text Fran or I would text Langley and I'd be like, hey, do you want to get dinner today? Hey, do you want to do this today? Hey, I'm going to go do this. Do you want to join me? If you are like me and you are a very social person and you need that socialization, you just have to make the effort to make plans and make it happen. Again, if you're in the student accommodation, which is in Ulenstede, I think it would be a lot easier. Someone asked, how was school in Amsterdam different from Denver? In Denver, we have quarter system. They do periods. So I was in Amsterdam for 4 months, and over the course of that 4 months, I went through 2 periods. So the same time that we'd be in 1 quarter, we did 2 periods. Each class that you take is only 8 weeks, And instead of doing 4 at one time in one long quarter, you do 2 at a time. So I still took 4 classes, the same as I would have on Denver's campus, but I did them in periods, so each class was only 8 weeks long, which goes insanely fast. But you're actually in school for 16 weeks, which is longer than in Denver. You don't get a break in between. Like, you have your finals week, and then period 2 starts the next week. So I think I had 4 days off, but that's only because my final was on Wednesday, and then Monday we started classes again. Another huge difference for the grading system is that your entire grade is pretty much one test. In every single class, my final was worth 70 to 80% of my grade, and then there was one other assignment, like a paper or a presentation or something like that. One of them was a debate, but that would be like the other 20-ish%. It is not easy to pass classes in Amsterdam. It's a 10-point system, 0 to 10, 10 being the highest, and 9s and 10s are pretty much unheard of. We were warned about this. The school definitely told me, like, oh, it's hard to get A's, like, people just want 6s, and I didn't quite understand how true that was. Like, it was insanely difficult to pass. I got a 6 and a 6.6 while I was over there for my first period, which is the equivalent of a C or a C- in Denver. So that was something I had to get used to when I first got the grades back. I was like, oh, that is the goal. The goal is to get a 6. And if you get a 7 or an 8, like, outstanding, you did really, really, really well. But a 6 is still good. You understand what you're doing. Like, you know what you're talking about. This is another difference that's more specific to my majors, but I'm majoring in socio-legal, which is basically pre-law, and psychology, and I did classes for both while I was over there. All of my classes are transferring back as major classes. So I took things like Brain in Trouble, which was all about brains that are not functioning properly, so to speak. So people with ADHD, people with depression, and we looked at all of them, and we looked at what, like, chemically was going on in the brain. And of course that's really interesting, but as someone with no background in any of the neuroscience part of the brain, it was very, very difficult for me to kind of understand all the concepts going on. For my law class, I took Public International Law. Again, really, really interesting, and I loved the way the class was set up. Didn't know this when I signed up for it, but it was actually a master's class. So half the students in there were master's students who had already finished their undergrad. And then there's me, a second-year undergrad, also taking the class. The grading scale was much more difficult than I'm used to. All right, the next one is, was it easy to travel around Europe from Amsterdam? I've gotten this from a lot of people who are going into the same program as me next year. I'd say, yes, it's easy. Flights are to everywhere from Amsterdam. You can take planes, you can take trains, you can take buses, you can rent a car. I would say that it's not exactly cheap. It depends on where you're going and what you're doing and when you're going. My train, I took the Eurostar to Paris. That was like 150, I think. My ticket to London, which I ended up not, unfortunately, using, but my ticket to London was only like $40 for round trip. So that was really cheap, and that was using EasyJet, I think. So there are ways to travel cheaply, and honestly, something you could do is just not know where you want to go and just look at what the cheapest flights are and then go there and have that pick it for you. Another thing that can save you money is if you know other people studying abroad, you can travel to them, stay with them, and then it's a lot cheaper. So I definitely recommend reaching out to your friends if you want to go where they're staying or where they're studying and taking advantage of that. I didn't travel a lot. I went to 2 other countries, I think. I went to France, I went to Paris, and I went to Belgium, I went to Bruges. And I loved both trips, but I definitely felt during times of my study abroad that I was doing study abroad wrong. Obviously, I would have loved to see more places. I would have loved to go to more countries. I wasn't away every single weekend, and I wasn't going to all these places. In hindsight now, I'm actually really glad that I stayed in Amsterdam for so many weekends. I think it made it feel a lot like home. I definitely felt sad and upset and like I was doing something wrong for a while. My friend Langley and I decided to rent a car in Amsterdam and drive all the way down to Belgium, and that was definitely my favorite trip that I did. It was a day trip. We didn't even stay in Belgium overnight, but we woke up super early in the morning, like 6 in the morning, got the car, drove the 2.5, 3 hours down to Belgium to go to one of the Christmas markets, and it was so fun. I've been told this is a very, like, United States feeling, but I had missed driving so much. Like, just the freedom that you get when you're driving. Obviously, the public transit in Europe is really, really nice, and I took advantage of it like every single day. But there's something about being able to plug your phone in and play your own music and sing songs with your friend and everything like that. That's just so nice. We didn't vlog the entire day, we just got like little clips, but I'm gonna put that in this video actually, just so you guys can see, because I feel like that's something I didn't think about until 3 months in. I was like, we could just rent a car for the day, and splitting the cost, it was actually really, really cheap. I'm not gonna do this while we're driving, but we're in our car. It's a fucking VW. It's a Volkswagen. What's going on? I got a little chocolate croissant. We are going to Belgium, baby. Hey guys. Thank you. Yummy. It's lunchtime. It's busy. That's one of my favorite memories with Langley. The new GNX, like the new Kendrick album came out too, so that was our playlist on the ride home, and now every single time I hear that, I'm gonna think of driving home from Belgium with Langley. Someone asked, what did you wish you had known before going to study abroad? If you are going to study in Amsterdam, and you've heard about the rain and the gloominess and the clouds, they are not lying to you. I am a sunny Southern California gal at heart, that's where I grew up, and I go to school in Colorado, which has just as many days of sunshine as Los Angeles, if not more. It was not for me. It was extremely hard for me to get myself out of my room and go walk around town if it was pouring rain and if there was no sun out. It was just so difficult because you'd look out the window at 6 p.m. and it would feel like it was 11 p.m. and you just want to go to bed, but there's so many hours of day left. The first month you're there is going to be probably August-ish. Enjoy the sun. Enjoy it. Savor it. There are beaches like less than an hour away from where you're staying. I decided to travel to Paris the first month that I was there because I was so excited about going to Paris. And I wish I had saved Paris for later in the trip because weather almost anywhere else in Europe is going to be better than Amsterdam. So if you're going to Italy, wait until November and December because then you're leaving really cold, gloomy weather and going to nicer weather, instead of wasting the time that you have really good weather in Amsterdam and going to other countries. So I would do all of your traveling towards the end of your stay. Some of you guys might be a lot better at being more independent. I'm usually a pretty independent person. Like back home, I'm a very independent person, but that's because I can see my people. When you don't have that support system yet, it's very difficult. Things got a lot easier. Once I was able to go to Fran's place and we could make dinner together and I could go to a cafe and see Shreya. That made everything so much better, but you have to build that support system first. I will hopefully be able to visit them in the UK sometime within the next year. Okay, so someone asked for Amsterdam recommendations, and I have a little list for you guys. I'm not gonna do a ton. I made most of my meals myself at the hotel, so didn't go to a ton of restaurants. And I definitely went clubbing a little bit. There's a really good Italian restaurant in the central area called Seppi's, I believe, C-E-P-P-I. Really good Italian food, highly recommend. You do need a reservation. Every single time I've gone, I've needed a reservation. So book it in advance, probably like a week in advance. Really, really good bolognese, really, really good carbonara. I'm sure they have lots of other good stuff too, but highly recommend. I also highly recommend all of the George restaurants. There was one near me, and it's near Vondel Park as well, called Le Petit Georges, which is just a super small French restaurant, basically. But you can also go to any of the Georges. It's a whole chain. Winkle 43 is a super cute place. You may have seen it if you've been looking at Amsterdam stuff to do. They have really good Dutch apple pie. My friends and I honestly really liked it because a lot of the times if you go on like a Tuesday night and you go get pie or hot chocolate, the cafe is pretty much filled with locals. I highly recommend Cafe Janssen. It was basically the cafe underneath the hotel that I stayed at. I would go down there to do my homework almost every single day, or just to hang out, just to get a morning cup of coffee. And their lattes are so, so good. They literally knew my order by the time I left. Like, I would walk in, by the time my family visited even, which was in November, and I left late December, I would walk in and they'd be like, "You want a latte, right?" And I'd be like, "Yes, please." For bars and nights out, highly, highly recommend any of the live music places in the central area. We have Cafe Alta, which is a jazz bar. We have Bourbon Street, which can do jazz, but also sometimes has like other genres, but it's always live music, as well as the piano bar. Langley and I loved the piano bar. I think when I first heard piano bar, I was like, oh, it's gonna be like classical music and it's gonna be like all fancy. No, it's so fun. There's someone playing the piano and you can usually request songs, or they'll have like a set list and you can choose any of them. And people will sing along. So it was people singing along to Mamma Mia while he played and sang. We requested Piano Man when Emerson was visiting, stuff like that. It's just such a cute little place. If you like singing, if you like live music, for like actual clubbing, I'd recommend Melkweg. Melkweg is a big tourist one, but honestly, I've had fun every single time I've gone on a weekend. Stop it. Melkweg also does this thing called Techno Tuesdays. I would not recommend Techno Tuesday. Melkweg, however, will do the exchange student parties, which will either be included with your school, like the VU held some of them. Some of them were just exchange parties that we found out about. Every single exchange party that I went to was really, really fun. They had an opening party. We found out about one that wasn't even for our school, but ended up going to, which is actually in my first vlog from Amsterdam, for just like getting drinks, not like clubbing, just going out and getting drinks at like a bar. I recommend Coco's Happy Hour. At like 5 p.m. it'll be $5 for a cocktail. At 6 p.m. it'll be $6 for a cocktail, kind of thing. So pretty cheap and super cute place. And then just another bar situation for night is Belushi's. Belushi's is super fun. It's another sports bar. Sometimes they do have live music. Sometimes they just have fun music going on. There's like 2 rooms. And one is more like standing area, bar, stage, and one is more sit-down pub situation. So you can kind of have either one that you want, and I've been in both, I've sat in both. If you are going to Amsterdam, if you join the Belushi's newsletter online, they will give you a free cocktail for like your first time signing up. And I didn't know about that like the first 2 times I went, so I used it the 3rd time I went. But I think I got like an Aperol Spritz or something, and it's completely free and included. So if you're gonna go to Belushi's, highly recommend that. I think that's the majority of my recommendations, but Amsterdam was just so fun, and it's kind of cool because it is a really large city, so you can go do something new every single day. You can go find it in a new place. Those are most of the questions you guys sent in. Someone did ask how expensive it was. That kind of depends on how many places you're going to be visiting outside of where you're staying. As for the actual school, my school at least does it so that it's the exact same tuition, so your tuition doesn't change. Whatever I pay at DU is how much I paid for Amsterdam. So the price didn't change at all. The expensive part is the traveling, the excursions that you're gonna do. Obviously, if you're paying for drinks and stuff like that every time you go out on the weekend, that can add up as well, so you have to keep that in mind. This is my stack of things to show you guys. This is a card from my friend Shreya. She wrote me a Christmas card, which was so cute, and every single time I read this, I cry, so I'm not going to read it right now. I also got this at the Van Gogh Museum. It's just a picture of one of his paintings, probably my favorite one that I saw in the museum, probably one of my favorite museums that I saw down there. I'm not a big museum gal, but I did really enjoy the Van Gogh Museum. I got this cute little postcard. I ended up getting a whole bunch of these for friends and family and writing Christmas cards on the back. I ended up just getting one for myself as well. I thought it was super cute. This is a cute little card I got at Le Petit Georges. It says, "Can't wait to see your smile again" on the back, which I thought was super cute at the time, so I took it. But this is also one of my favorite restaurants. This is what I got my key card in. Obviously, it's not in here. I had to give it back to the hotel I stayed at. I also ended up saving my luggage tag. This is photo booth photos of me and Emerson. Emerson is my big in my sorority. This is a matchbox that I got during a white elephant, and then I also got a little Choco Milk cup. It's a huge brand in the Netherlands. It's basically chocolate milk, and then you can heat it up for like hot chocolate as well. I think that's the majority of what I wanted to do today. I hope this video is super insightful and helpful for people who are possibly going to the VU or Amsterdam or just studying abroad in general. I thought 4 months was gonna be a long time, and it honestly was so short. I am excited to be home. I'm excited to be back in California, back in Denver in about a week. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Mwah.